Good morning. I was going to set myself up in the middle of this frame, but then Snowflake came over. She made herself comfy in that garden bed, and I decided, let's take a look at her instead of my face when I tell you what's going to happen in this week's garden update. We are going to do a bit of quirky gardening because I have a bit of caterpillar pressure and I want to see if I can manage it. So we are going to do the caterpillar cardboard experiment. We'll also collect some seeds. I'll share lots of tips with you along the way. We'll take a look at the cut flower bouquets I put together for this week and lots more. So please just sit back, relax, and let's get into it now. I've been finding lots of caterpillars in the cut flowers this week. In years past, this wouldn't bother me too much. But now that I'm selling the cut flowers that I grow, I have to admit I find this a bit frustrating because every one of these Rudbeckia blooms and other cut flowers that I'm growing that get attacked by the caterpillars or other insects is one less that I can sell. I did a bit of research to see how I can organically manage these little creatures without killing them off. I don't want to get rid of all of these caterpillars, rather see if I can manage and control where they decide to dine for dinner. Feel like this goal is going to be a bit tricky. I don't even know if it's possible, but I want to give it a go. So having said all of that, let's try out this cardboard caterpillar experiment. I've never done this before, but the theory goes if you place a piece of cardboard around the base of a plant, it will help reduce the chances of caterpillar attacking that plant. We'll see. I don't mean to seem skeptical, but I just don't quite understand how this is going to work. And that's probably due to the fact that I don't have a big knowledge when it comes to all the species of caterpillars, their life cycle. I was always under the impression that the butterflies lay the eggs on the back of foliage. However, I'm still giving this a try, and you know, not all butterflies may do the same thing. I'm going to test this out in this patch of younger Rudbeckia plants and lots of grass that's made its way in here. I think we'll start with this one. Apparently, if you place this cardboard around the base of a plant, just give me a sec, like this. I mean, like, how's the water supposed to get down to the roots as well? But, oh, okay. You know, guys, I'm not an expert here. I just like sharing what I do. I always say that as a disclaimer. This cardboard is going to prevent, or it's meant to prevent, caterpillars from laying eggs around the bottom here, around in the soil or the top of the soil of the plant, and that will hopefully reduce the numbers that attack the flowers. Has anyone tried this before? Like, does it actually work, or am I wasting my time? Please let me know. Otherwise, I will keep you all updated over the coming weeks. And of course, it goes without saying that this is in no way a scientific experiment. It's one of those, you know, garden experiments to have a bit of fun, try things out, and if it works, fantastic. Here's my other patch of Rudbeckias. I showed you this last week. There was only the odd couple of flowers open, and now there are so many. And I've actually already harvested from this patch for this week's bouquets. And as you can see, there are still plenty of blooms left over. Now, I did show you this one last week, which is the Rudbeckia Indian Summer, but I have another one that's opened up. Here it is. This variety is called Rudbeckia gloriosa. It's from a mixed seed pack, so the petals are all a little bit different. I think this is going to be perfect when autumn arrives. It's got really lovely autumnal colours there, which will go well in those bouquets. And down here, is that fly having a little nap in there, or is it just not moving at all? That's a bit weird. Anyway, I'll check in a sec. This is the first flower bud of the Rebecca Sahara mix. I just gave that little fly or bee a bit of a nudge and it hasn't moved. I think it's passed away, unfortunately. We have had a few very hot days. That may be the reason why it didn't survive. You know what, I've just come back over to this caterpillar because when I was recording it, it didn't move at all. I'm gonna pick it up and see if it's still, it's still alive. Oh, is it? Oh, he is. Oh, thank goodness. I've pushed it as long as I can, but it's definitely time for me to pull out some flowers from this row and replace them with some fresh cut flower seedlings. All of these cornflowers need to come out. I mean, I'm showing you some nice, fairly decent blooms, but most of them have gone over and they are ready for seed collection. Well, not those ones in particular, but I'll show you how I do that. I'm going to collect some seeds and then these will all be gone, and behind them the ageridum needs to be pulled out too. So I'm going to quickly head inside and grab a couple of little bags or envelopes and I will gather a few seeds, show you how easy it is to save your own. If this was just our regular garden like it always has been since we moved in here, I wouldn't feel any sense of urgency having to remove those plants. However, now that our garden has become a source of income for my family via Bren's blooms, sorry, there's a fly. I need to look at that cut flower bed as an area where I could potentially get in a succession crop of cut flowers which I'll be able to grow this season and use in bouquets to sell at the garden centre. I've grabbed a couple of envelopes and as you can see I've quickly written down the names of the flowers as well as a rough date. When it comes to saving the cornflowers or bachelor buttons, what you're looking for is a seed pod that is nice and brown like this one here, and if you give it a bit of a gentle pull like this, you begin to see all of these little seeds pop out. I think they look a little bit like, would you say, a squid? They have a little bit of a fuzzy bit at the bottom, and each of these seed pods contains quite a number of seeds, so there's plenty there that will get you through the next season. Let's take a look at all of these. What would you say, is there maybe about 20 or so? Popping them straight into the envelope. And don't forget, when you're saving seeds, it's always best to do it on a dry day. Also, if you're in a bit of a rush or if you don't want to be outside removing the seeds while it's still quite warm, what you can do is just pop off the entire head, put them in a bag, and then you can do the job of separating the seeds indoors. Here in my very weedy patch of ageridum, you know, the same situation as the cornflowers. There are a few blooms that are still looking good, but when it comes to, you know, the precious garden space, you have to think, how much production am I getting out of this area now? How many stems am I able to harvest from it? And there comes a point where the production is so low that it's not worth continuing. It's much better to pull the plants out and put in a fresh batch of flowers. When you're collecting the ageridum seeds, what you're looking for is a really nice brown head like this one, and you can almost see the seeds here just are popping out at this stage. So I'll just do this, brush them off. The problem with the ageridum seeds, they're those little black things that you see there. They are actually attached to all of this chaff, or I believe that's the correct name, you know, just the dried part of the flower, and it's quite tricky to separate them. So what I will probably do for the moment is just pop them in the envelope. There's a few different ways that you can remove chaff from the seeds, and I'll show you some of them as the season progresses and I save more seeds along the way. I mean, quickly off the top of my head, one way is basically just removing them from the seeds by hand, which can be quite tedious. Another method is, depending on the size of the seeds, you can actually place them all into a bowl, and either with a small fan or just with your breath, you can just blow off the chaff. That too takes a bit of time, but I find that's a little bit easier than the hand picking. One more method I can think of is using a kitchen sieve. You just need to find one with the correct size holes. One of my favourite seeds to save are poppies. These seed pods are from the peony salmon poppies, which I grew during springtime. And remember, I left the plants in the ground because I really wanted the pods to dry out for seed saving, and as well as that, I really love the look of them. I'll be able to put these in dried flower arrangements during winter. I've just pulled one plant out and I'm going to remove the seeds. It's the easiest thing ever. It's so satisfying, and I think if you've never seen this before, you will probably be pretty shocked by the amount I get from one plant. The good news is that you don't need to break up the seed pods, because if you take a look at the top, the pod itself creates these little openings or windows where the seeds are able to spill out. I've just grabbed a little container to gather them in. Look at that, isn't that insane? Hundreds, probably actually thousands of seeds, thousands and thousands of them. Pop it all over into the corner. Wow. Oh, how good is that? I'll never have to buy seeds from this plant again. That will last me for years. And you know, the cycle just keeps on going on. It's like the infinity seed saving of poppies. And while all those flowers are wrapping up for their growing season, the Canas are beginning to put on some really beautiful colour. These are growing down beside the chicken coop. Some years they do better than others. It really depends on the rain. This year, as you can tell, they seem to be really happy. I'm not actually sure if I can use these as cut flowers. I must look into it. And speaking of cut flowers, let me quickly show you what bouquets I put together for this week. Here are this week's bouquets that I dropped off yesterday to Tarmore Garden Centre. I usually deliver them on Fridays, but due to them being closed over the New Year's, I thought if I dropped these bunches off a day earlier, hopefully that would increase the chances of them selling. I have been considering adding some white or cream tissue paper as an additional layer when wrapping. I'm not sure, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? I'd love to hear your opinion. In one of those bouquets, I have a Dahlia Cafe au lait, like what you see here. I bought this tuber, I think it was last year, and it seems to be really taken off now, which is quite exciting. This particular Dahlia is very popular at the moment. I mean, I do like it, and I have to think about my customers, but my preference, I think it will always be the brighter, bolder coloured flowers. Anyway, I just wanted to get this in before I had to end this video, which unfortunately is now. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you're new here, you know that, well, you wouldn't know the drill because you're new. Please consider subscribing. If you're a regular, give me a thumbs up. Maybe drop a comment. All of that really helps with the algorithm and encourages me to continue with this YouTube channel. Well, I'd probably still continue anyway. Anyway, I said anyway too much. I hope you all have a very happy new year, a safe weekend ahead, and I'll see you again next Friday.